Here it is, folks, the new ROG Strix G series laptop from Asus. This is the GL531GU. I picked this up from Walmart on sale for $900. Price is typically between $1,000 and $1,200. Now, its biggest flaw is it came shipped with single channel memory. That hurts performance tremendously, and if you are not willing to make a separate purchase for more memory, adding it into this laptop for dual channel, stay away from this right off the bat because this is definitely not worth your money. But if you are willing to spend a little bit of extra money, crack this thing open and make it dual channel, this is a sweet laptop. All right, let's rock and roll. Inside our Strix today is the i5-9300H, which is a 4-core, 8-thread CPU. We have a GTX 1660 Ti. This is a max performance 80-watt GPU. For memory, as said earlier, that single 8GB stick at 2666. Don't worry, we are going to be showcasing dual channel performance and the installation within this review. For storage, we have a single M.2 Intel 1660p NVMe at 512GB. There's also an empty 2.5-inch storage that comes with the necessary screws, hardware, and ribbon cable for your installation. The network interface card is the Intel 9560, but it is hidden underneath the M.2 SSD. The 66 watt-hour battery on our Optimus-equipped laptop was sadly only good for around 3 hours. I appreciate the higher wattage than necessary 230 watt power supply unit, but the case is a little sharp and chunky, just a heads up. The weight of our Strix today comes in at 5.2 pounds, and the overall build quality is very sturdy despite it being all plastic. The I/O on the left-hand side uses 3 USB 3.1s and a combo audio mic port. The rear features a LAN with the tab up. Thank you very much. We need to see this more often. The HDMI, USB-C, no Thunderbolt 3 on this, and the barrel power plug. On the right side we have exhaust only. Opening up our G Series Strix with one hand could not be easier. The Windows Precision touchpad is smooth as glass, and the dedicated buttons were the best dedicated buttons I have used on a gaming laptop to date. So everything right here is great. The keyboard is awesome, the Windows Precision touchpad is smooth and it works flawlessly, and the dedicated buttons made me realize maybe dedicated buttons are not such a bad thing. These are awesome. The display, not good for color correct work, but it is fine as a gamer. We have a full HD 120Hz IPS type display. Post color calibration was only 67% standard RGB and 50% Adobe RGB. Brightness just under 300 nits. I'll put the part number for the display right here for you, and overall, as a gamer, it gets the job done. Just don't expect to do any photo color correct work on this particular display. Now, there's no webcam built in, top or bottom. Asus decided to do without this for this series of laptops. We do have a built-in microphone and it sounds decent enough. Now, what about backlight bleed? This is something I check on every single laptop, but a lot of these laptops are running pretty solid with backlight bleed. And when it comes to this one here, we do have a little bit. Take a look. The proprietary software is the Armory Crate. You can activate this via the ROG key. You will have access to many performance settings and your keyboard lighting. The performance settings and keyboard lighting can also be activated on the keyboard with its function keys. The overall RGB lighting from the keyboard to the strip across the front and sides of the laptop looks very nice, but we do lack per key or zone lighting on our ROG here today. When switching to battery power, our clever software will limit our display to 60 Hz and automatically put our laptop in silent mode. And should you wish to cover all of this with a smartphone app, feel free to download the Armory Crate Control Center on your smartphone and have access to all of these features at the flick of a thumb. Now, aside from single channel memory performance, which you're about to see here in a hot second, the rest of this review, this laptop punches way above its weight. What a great machine. Our 1660 Ti will power limit itself once it hits 80 watts, so we have a max performance unit in here per the laptop spec. Our i5-9300H, however, has two power limits. The first one is at 60 watts, which will last for about 28 seconds, and the second one is 45 watts, in which it'll run indefinitely regardless of whether it's running by itself or combined with a GPU load. So just keep that in mind. But where this thing tends to fail is single channel memory performance, something that benchmarks rarely showcase. So look what happens when we run Overwatch, Battlefield 5, and Apex Legends. Overwatch and Battlefield 5 plummet in single channel performance. Apex Legends does okay, but when you compare it to dual channel, there is still a significant difference here. Some of your games are going to perform all right with single channel, others are going to be absolutely atrocious. Thankfully, I have a dual channel kit here on hand, and we're going to run the HyperX 15 cast latency stuff, basically the fastest you can get natively for these laptops, and this laptop accepted it with ease. Look what happens now when comparing this once again with Overwatch, Battlefield 5, and Apex Legends. On some titles, you are going to get a significant upgrade here. Now this is out of the box performance, but with a dual channel memory kit. Temperatures of the CPU are going to range somewhere in the 80s, rarely ever hitting 90 degrees Celsius, and the warmest the GPU would ever get after running for nearly 18 hours at load at one particular time was 74 degrees Celsius. But for those that want a little bit more thermal performance from their Strix, follow my tuning guides linked in the description below. And now as you can see here, we have a little bit cooler GPU and CPU. We've done so without compromising frame rate. All right, single channel memory is a huge bottleneck depending on the game that you're playing, and it's an absolute terrible idea in this particular laptop. So be very mindful of this should you purchase this SKU. Be prepared to purchase another stick of RAM. Now you do not need to buy a dual channel kit like I did. I wanted to showcase what some of the best memory you can put in here, as it has a very low cast latency of 15. It was plug and play, no shenanigans there. Should you wish to just go ahead and order another stick of memory, just make sure you match the capacity. In this case, you would need another 8GB stick, as having another 16GB stick on top of the 8GB stick means you're only going to have dual channel up until that 16GB is saturated, and then you're going to start to run into some performance problems. Windows will scale itself per the amount of memory you have versus what is actually needed per the piece of software that you're using. All right, so enough of that. The acoustics and thermal performance out of the box on this, once you add that other stick of RAM, is really, really good. And I could not believe how quiet this laptop was at load. 46 decibels was the loudest I could make this laptop scream. That is 2 decibels lower than the class-leading laptops that I have featured on the channel this year, including the Legion Y740. So at this point, I am thrilled with this laptop. Surely the audio performance has to be lackluster, right? No. Have a listen. And to top it all off, the BIOS has a nice modern look. There's not a lot of features in here, but I do appreciate the up-to-date aesthetic. Of course, we're talking about Asus here. They are sort of the king of these types of things. Bottom line is this: if you were willing to put another stick of memory in this laptop, this is a great machine. And yes, you have to factor in that price, but the job is pretty easy to do. The keyboard is awesome. The deck temps are great at load. The Windows Precision trackpad is incredibly smooth. The dedicated buttons are spectacular. The thermal performance is definitely above average, and the acoustics are way above average. If I wasn't a content creator, I'm always going to be cheap, so I appreciate laptops that are around that $800 to $1,200 range that this happens to fall into. So if I was not a content creator, truth be known, the only games I would really play are titles like Overwatch, and I would just put another stick of memory in here. I don't need the most color correct display. Everything about this laptop would at this point suit me personally very well. And I am very surprised at how great this machine was once you upgraded it to dual channel memory. But for those that are not interested in doing that, definitely look elsewhere. All right, folks, that's going to about do it. Check out up here for the teardown of this particular machine, and that's going to do it. Hopefully you enjoyed the review, and thanks for watching.